Bendy's going to kill me, Alice thought to herself. She tried to look around from her position on Sammy Lawrence's shoulder. The ink being had somehow managed to ambush her while she was trying to find Bendy, and is now walking towards another destination, with Alice now tied up with a cloth tied over her mouth and slung over her shoulder, as if she was just a sack of potatoes. She let out a muffled sigh as she attempted to free herself from the ropes binding her. Sure, she could have just slipped out of them easily due to being attuned, but only whenever the situation called for it. Soon she looked to see that Sammy Lawrence had reached a room with a pentagram drawn onto the floor. He walked over to the pentagram and set Alice onto it. She attempted to squirm away, only to get her already bound feet chained to the floor, along with her restrained hands. Alice said as she struggled. Sammy Lawrence paid no attention and instead walked out of the room. Alice continued to struggle up until she heard his voice come on the intercom. "Sheep, sheep, sheep, it's time to sleep," he said. "Rest your head, it's time for bed. In the morning you may wake, or in the morning you'll be dead. Hear me, Bendy. Arise from the darkness. Arise and claim my offering. I summon you, ink demon. Show your face and take this tender sheep." Alice rolled her eyes at what she had heard. "I'm not even a sheep," she thought to herself. She decided to play along and started struggling as if Bendy actually did appear, adding in muffled screams of panic as a bit of bonus. After a while she stopped and waited for Sammy Lawrence to either appear to check or leave for another room in Joy Juice Studios entirely. When he did not appear after a while, she breathed out a sigh of relief and attempted to free herself once more. "You naughty little angel, getting mixed up in Sammy's shenanigans like that," she heard a familiar voice say from behind her. She looked to see Bendy in his ink form, hovering over her, an obvious smirk on his face. Alice frantically shook her head and started struggling. Bendy only continued to smirk as he undid the chains that kept Alice grounded and picked her up, holding her bridle style. She cried out in surprise when he did so. Bendy could not help but chuckle at the response as he carried her out of the room. Alice let out a whimper as she looked around. After a while, Bendy soon reached a room and entered. Soon, closing the door with his foot, he gently set Alice down onto a mattress that was in the room. She watched as he went to the door and locked it. "Can't have anyone waltzing in on us, now can I?" he said, his smirk still on his face. Alice's only response was a whimpering cry as she attempted to struggle out of her bindings once more. She cursed through her gag when she noticed that she had not been getting anywhere with her efforts. Bendy could not help but chuckle at that as he walked over to the mattress and climbed onto it, hovering over Alice with his face just inches away from hers. Another muffled whimper escaped from Alice as Bendy started stroking one side of her face with his hand. "I'm going to screw you so hard you won't be able to see straight," he said in a seductive tone. "Or at least you won't sit for a week." Alice blushed at that as Bendy snapped his fingers, leaving the angel completely nude while still tied up. Her blush darkened from being exposed as the devil started kissing at her neck. She started letting out soft moans from that. As that went on, Bendy's hands went toward her breasts and started to massage them. Alice's moans increased in both frequency and volume when he did so. Bendy smirked at that as he stopped assaulting her neck. Alice whined a bit as she looked at him with big eyes. Bendy chuckled as he started pinching and pulling at her nipples, earning him more moans from Alice. After a while, Bendy stopped massaging Alice's soft moans, causing Alice to whine after that. However, her whining soon became moans as Bendy started fingering her womanhood. Her blush had spread along her face more so as pleasure built up in her womanhood as the knot in her stomach tightening. However, just as she was at the edge of release, Bendy removed his hand from her entrance. Alice let out a muffled protest as she attempted to rub herself against the mattress, desperate to keep going. Bendy only untied her legs and lifted her up. Alice let out a sound as that Bendy led her on the mattress, making sure she was on her front. She barely had time to think when she felt Bendy position her legs until her rump was high in the air. She asked, a bit of fear evident in the tone. "Don't worry," I'll be gentle, Bendy said as he reassuringly petted her head, making sure to gently touch the horns for a little pleasure. Alice let out a soft moan from that. Bendy put 3 of his fingers in his mouth and began to suck on them. Once he was sure that they were coated with saliva, he removed the fingers with an audible pop. He then pushed one finger into Alice's asshole. Alice let out a muffled scream at that as Bendy waited for her to adjust to the new feeling a bit. Once Alice had nodded, Bendy started slowly thrusting his finger into the hole, earning him some moans of pleasure from the angel. Soon he added a second finger and started making scissor motions inside Alice's back entrance. Alice started whimpering from the immense pleasure. Bendy smirked at that as he quickened his scissoring. Alice's whimpers increased as he added a third finger. At one point during the pleasuring, one of the fingers brushed against a specific spot, causing Alice to moan loudly. He heard it and smirked a bit. "Oh, did you enjoy that?" he asked her before deciding to tease her, barely touching the spot. "You're so dirty for an angel." Alice whined from the teasing before Bendy continued pleasuring her, turning her whines into moans. Once he was sure he had stretched it, he removed his fingers from her asshole. Alice looked at him as best as she could from her position on the mattress when she saw him about to line his member up with her back entrance. She braced herself before she felt his member enter her hole. "Mm-hmm," she cried out. Bendy smirked from the reaction and started thrusting slowly. As he did so, he used his arm to lift Alice's front from the mattress and positioned her so that her back was against his front. During the whole time he was thrusting, moans were pouring from Alice's gagged mouth. After a while, he picked up the pace some more, enjoying the increase of moans coming from his angel. He then suddenly smacked one of her butt cheeks. Alice cried out in pain as the blush on her face darkened some more. Bendy smirked at the reaction and kept smacking her on the ass as he continued thrusting himself into it. After a while, he picked up the pace, and until his thrusting was almost inhuman. Alice's moans increased some more as she struggled a bit. Bendy soon could not hold it in, and so he released straight into Alice's asshole, making sure that it was filled straight to the brim. Once he was sure it was filled, he removed himself from Alice's back entrance as she collapsed onto the mattress. He flipped her once more so that she was lying on her back. He wiped off his member just to be safe and positioned himself over her. "Hope you're ready," he said seductively, earning him a nod in response. He then inserted himself into Alice's heart-shaped box, getting a moan in response. After waiting a bit for her to adjust, he started thrusting into her. She continued to moan from getting thrust into, moving her hips up to his every time. Noticing, Bendy picked up the pace and started attacking her neck with kisses and love bites. Moans were increased in number and volume as he did so, causing the devil to smirk. He then picked up one of Alice's legs and placed it on his shoulder as he continued thrusting. "Nah!" Alice cried out as she felt that she was getting close to releasing once more. Bendy had smirked as he stopped his assault on her neck and gave her a kiss on the nose. "Come," he only said. That did it, and so? Alice let out a loud moan as she did so. Her juices spilled out and coated his member. Alice panted through the gag, slightly embarrassed that she had come so much. Bendy only continued thrusting into her entrance until he released as well, making sure to fill up her pussy as well. He pulled himself out and untied the rest of Alice's bindings. Once he removed the cloth, the first thing Alice had done was lightly kiss him on the lips, which he returned in earnest. The snap of his fingers, the mess as well as the two were cleaned up and lying on the mattress, cuddling against each other. "Thank you," Alice said. "For what?" Bendy asked. "For finding me when you did." Bendy only smiled. "You're welcome." They both started to make out for a while once they broke off the kiss. They both fell asleep in each other's arms.